Russia has accused Ukraine of launching a drone attack on Moscow. Russia's defense ministry says 2 drones hit non-residential buildings, with one crashing close to its headquarters in the city center. No casualties have been reported, and the governor of Crimea, the Ukrainian Peninsula, which Russia annexed in 2014, has said that an ammunition depot there has been hit during a Ukrainian drone attack. He also claimed that 11 drones were shot down or jammed during the attack, and there are no indications of any casualties. Ukraine has not commented on either incident, but it had said it would respond after several airstrikes on the port city of Odessa. The government in Kiev has accused Moscow of targeting grain which was due for export, and this comes after the deal under which both Russia and Ukraine were allowed safe passage for shipments of grain and fertilizer through the Black Sea, came to an end with no new deal reached. We can hear more now from our correspondent James Waterhouse, who spoke to me from Odessa. Well, it's been a miserable week for the city. Really, we've been here for a number of days now, and typically overnight you can hear the booms of air defenses trying to hold out against waves of Russian missile attacks. And last night, we were told there was a 4-hour-long strike further south from the city where the Russians had launched drones as they continue to try and target port infrastructure, and this has coincided with Moscow's withdrawal from a major agreement which allowed Ukraine to export grain, but the Kremlin pulled out mainly over frustrations over Western sanctions, and since its departure it has looked to frustrate Ukraine in just about every way possible. It is now targeting port infrastructure and making Ukraine's important task it sees it as vital for its economy and the wider world. It's made its job of trying to export grain all the more difficult, so it's been another night of airstrikes. And this is a city now readapting to a routine of clearing up rubble the day after a night of attacks from the sky. Yeah, James, you're obviously there in Odessa, but we're getting these reports that Russia accusing Ukraine of launching a drone attack against Moscow. We don't know what more details you might have on it yet. It's difficult. You have 2 categories, don't you? What we know and what we know and what we don't know. We can obviously talk about what has happened in Odessa. When we see these kind of claims come out of Russia, along with unverified footage of a drone flying through the Moscow skyline, you have to look at the claims and what may be happening now. There are 2 scenarios here. It could be Russia trying to build a false justification for a future military action by saying, look at what Ukraine is doing. It has blamed Kiev for these apparent drone strikes, or it could indeed be a drone attack that Ukraine was behind. Gabe never really comments on these types of operations, and I think if we look at the broader point here, when you see these kind of drone attacks inside Russian territory, they applied psychological pressure on the Russian population, the majority of whom choose to keep their heads down to not ask too many questions about the Kremlin's invasion. And what this does is apply pressure and force people to pay attention to what may be happening across the border. So I think in the main it'll be Ukraine that'll be taking more satisfaction from these apparent images in Moscow. But I've got to stress, we don't know the full picture on this one. James W. Waterhouse in Crimea.